My name's Jeff Rodenberg. I work for a big construction company. NCCER was started by construction companies, and it is still takes its directives from construction companies. So I'm not really here to tell you much about my own company. I'm here to tell you about the program. My company is a self-performed general contractor. We employ up to 6,000 direct craft at any given time. Everything you see up there, we do ourselves. Concrete, iron, pipe, welding, electrical. So we have apprentice programs for all these trades. I made a bad joke at my table. I said, the only thing we don't do is paint. And they said, oh, they're called coating experts. I said, oh, I'm sorry, we don't do coating. TIC was started in 1974 in Colorado. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of the Kiewit Corporation. So even if you haven't heard of TIC, you've probably heard of Kiewit. They've been a stable presence here in Alaska since 1948. So the markets that we work in is power, oil, gas, chemical. We build big stuff. Power plants, refineries, mines, anything big. You can see some of our customers, Dow Chemical, Conoco, Shell, TransCanada Pipeline, and we operate all throughout North America. We have work in Mexico, we have work in the lower 48, we have work in Alaska, we have work all over Canada. So part of the reason we use NCCER is because we are all over the place. And this program is recognized and revered all over the place. So let me tell you a little bit about NCCER. You can probably read their wording there, and you can probably jump on the website and get their history. I'll tell you how it really started. It started in 1996, and it was 8 or 9 of the biggest construction companies in America got tired of wasting money. Because I would train an electrician, he'd go work for Fluor. Fluor would say, oh, TIC, they don't know what they're doing. They'd start all over again. Or the guy from Bechtel, or the guy from KBR, or the guy from Beacon. So we decided, even though we were competitors, to stop wasting money. Let's get all in on this together. We all threw $1 million in the pot. Boom, we started the NCCER. So it was started by construction companies. And you can see they've got accreditation, instructor certifications. It's a robust program, and I'll kind of go over that. It started with just 9 construction companies. APICC became accredited earlier this year. They're now one of more than 4,000 entities that use this program. So it's standardized textbooks, it's standardized testing. We all play by the same rules, and we all honor it. Just so you don't think I'm blowing smoke up your blank. These are the people that sit on the board of directors. So you've got major associations, ABC, AGC. You've got contractors. You can see Fluor, Bechtel, Zachary, Yates. These are all, if you guys aren't familiar with the construction company, there's a list called the ENR Top 400. And these are the 400 biggest contractors. Well, I would guess 8 out of the top 10 use the NCCER. It's used all over in the industrial world. You can also see there's owners on this list. You can see some icons for ExxonMobil, for Shell, for Dow Chemical. So this program is not just constructors saying, hey, we think this is good. It's also our clients and our owners saying, hey, we understand what's being taught here. We think there's value here. We also have partners. NCCER does, partner organizations. It's not just construction companies and oil and gas companies. It's also associations. So you can see the AGC, North American Crane Bureau. There's one on the bottom there, and I was talking about this on my table. Anyone in this room know what Skills USA is? Good. There is, you guys know Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs? He's kind of their unofficial spokesman, and he likes to call it the best kept secret in America. Skills USA has 300,000 high school and post-secondary kids that are learning skilled trades. So if you're like me and you grew up in an agriculture area, you're probably familiar with FFA, Future Farmers of America. Well, Skills USA is the same thing. It used to be called VICA. Maybe you heard that term. So vocational industrial clubs. It is now everything hands-on. Auto body, diesel mechanic, welding, electrical. And I had some folks at my table that had been to the national competition is in Louisville, and there's 8,000 kids there competing for prizes. And you hear people talk bad about millennials and, oh, this next generation. Go to that. I'll guarantee you, you won't talk bad because you see the future of America and you see it's very, very bright. So these are all partners that use the NCCER curriculum. Let me tell you, it started off just construction companies. Now I said there's over 4,000 entities that use it. You can see up there, Job Corps, state and local agencies, organized labor, you see that on the list. This is not a union, non-union program. This is used, anyone who wants to use it can use it. Now, I know I saw my friends from the IBEW out in the hall. They've got a great curriculum that they use, so most of their local chapters use their own in-house. But there are other unions that don't have as robust training material. And so there are certain unions in certain places around America that use the NCCER. Secondary, community colleges, it's used all over the place. These are just some rough numbers. Last year, over 450,000 people took, they don't call them lessons or chapters, they call them modules. So if I'm an electrician and I want to learn how to do underground bonding and how to connect a CAD weld, then I would take the grounding and bonding module. And it doesn't matter if I took it in, at an ABC facility, or I took it at a community college, or I took it at a private contractor school. We all know what got taught, and we all know that they learned it, and as long as it's recorded, anyone in the country can see what that transcript is. So just, again, so you don't think I'm making this stuff up, these are some ads out of the local hot sheet, the want ads. You can see KBR, CBI, PCL. These are all big players in the construction world. There might as well be a TIC one up there too, because we honor and we intently recruit people who have these NCCER credentials. So why do we train? I'm not up here just trying to sell textbooks. Yes, the NCCER makes textbooks, but they're trying to make the entire industry better. I don't work for them, but we started them, and I'm a cheerleader for them. This was a study that some academics and some construction folks did a couple years ago. For every 1%, if you simply invest 1% of your labor dollars into formalized trainings, here is the rewards and the returns that they saw. 11% improvement in productivity. Turnover went down. Absenteeism went down. Injuries went down. Rework went down. So training helps everyone. And you know, obviously with this group, I'm preaching to the choir. Another reason I'm here is to promote training, but also to promote the fact that you've probably heard this workforce shortage or skills gap, or oh my goodness, we're coming to a cliff. Now I understand Alaska is a little bit insulated. You go with the national trends, but you also have your own economy here that keeps folks somewhat insulated. But if we're using this NCCER, you are now able to tap in and tap out with our labor resource. So that kid who's in high school, who may want to stay in Alaska his whole life, well, guess what? If he is getting NCCER credentials, he now has labor options anywhere in America. I was talking to some high school teachers from Colorado, and they said, well, why would we use NCCR? The Colorado Home Builders Association has a great pre-apprenticeship program. I'm like, awesome, if you want to build houses in Colorado, because that's the only people who recognize it. And it's all the same stuff. You're teaching them blueprint reading, you're teaching them math, hand tools, power tools. It's all the same stuff, but why wouldn't you use something that's nationally recognized? So these are some stats here. The non-residential labor demand at peak is projected to be 6.3 million people. Right now we got 5.3, so we're already 1 million behind. They figure by 2019, which is in a couple of years, 500,000 people are already going to be retiring. So now you're 1.5 million behind. Some people have put it as high as 2 million behind. That bottom one right there comes straight from the American Welding Society. 290,000 welders short. And I know when the price of oil comes back up, you're going to see it here again. But we're seeing it everywhere. Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, everywhere. I don't know if you guys can see, that's some small writing, but the green box, these are different trades. The average age of a carpenter, average age is 36 years old. Highest one, average age of a crane operator is 47. I can tell you, I'll air a little bit of dirty laundry. We looked at our own company. Our average crane operator was 62. That means for every 40-year-old sitting in the seat, we had a 78-year-old sitting in the seat as well. So it's scary. It's scary out there. And if we're not getting the next generation in, we're all in deep water. Look at that number, 2029. That's the year it's really going to hit. And if you're not prepared for it, we're all going to be in trouble. The clock is ticking. The last of our baby boomers will retire out at 2029. And yeah, 5 years ago that seemed like a long ways off, but it keeps getting closer and closer. This is a graph that kind of shows all crafts together. This is a compilation of pipe fitters, electricians, iron workers, everybody else. If you start someone right now in that green box, you give them 4 years of craft training and through the light blue, okay, well now you got them up to an entry-level craftsman. Now you figure 4 more years to really get them proficient as a true journeyman. Man, we're getting real close to 2029. So if we don't start today, this year, we're going to be in trouble. Because at 2029, 41% will be gone. It's even worse for welders. At 2029, look at that orange pie, 48% of them will be gone. Construction managers, they're already a little older, right? So they'll all be out of here by then. Now, CTE can help and can accelerate the process. I know we've got some great education partners in the room. I was looking up a couple folks that I know. Of the education people in the room, does anyone use NCCER right now? A few hands? Good. A couple of other schools, and maybe you're from there. The Alaska Technical Center up in Kotzebue, did I say that right? They're using it for piping and electrical. The Southwest Alaska Vocational Education Center in Bristol Bay, they're using it for their carpentry program. So there are people using it. And APICC is ready to be the flag bearer and help more people use this. But you can see in those green dots, for every year that someone gets some past high school, CTE is a kind of a trendy acronym. It means Career and Technical Education. So that could be going to a culinary class, that could be going to a welding class, it's everything. Obviously here we're talking about construction. So if they're going to those schools, that's just going to help them get to that journeyman level quicker. So some of the big picture things that NCCER tries to accomplish. Credentialing, nationwide credentialing. You know that guy's got I guess his name's Joe Smith. He's got his card. They actually do have a physical wallet card, but obviously we're going to go look people up on a national database. And so everything, really that card is only, it's got a 6-digit number, and no matter what employer in America, all we got to do is plug in that 6-digit number, and we can look to see what Mr. Joe Smith has taken. They do a little bit of governmental outreach, but they do a big job. NCCER, with those logos and those big players you saw up there, they're, to be honest, they've got a little bigger clout than only the ABC or only the AGC or only CURT. When you've got everybody together under one flag, you can do some serious outreach. And so NCCER knows that. So when the program was started, it used to be that the only people who could offer it or who could oversee it were contractors. So my ladies up here, what school are you guys with? Native Corporation? Okay. So let's pretend I'm going to butcher this name. Ilaskiak? Ilisag. Oh, geez. My friend's from the only tribal school in Alaska, right? Did I get that right? Let's say they want to use the NCCER. Back in the day, they would have had to find a construction company to basically sponsor them, because the construction company was the only one who could give this stuff out. So what you're seeing there in the yellow is, in all of those states, there is an aspect of that old relationship happening, where a construction company is sponsoring a school. I can tell you with my company, we sponsor North Platte Community College in Nebraska. We sponsor Great Basin Community College in Elko, Nevada. Now, the reason it was a good model, because construction companies were all in. We were invested. We were going to make sure there was no shortcuts being taken. But that's okay if I'm sitting there building a power plant and I'm going to be there for a year. What happens when I'm done with that power plant and now I leave? The oversight, the passion, the involvement kind of goes by the wayside. So there's a new model, and this is where APICC falls in. The new model says for high schools and colleges, they can either be sponsored by an organization, they can be sponsored by an organization, meaning ABC, APICC, some of these construction education foundations. They can be sponsored by a construction company, or in a lot of cases, the orange, the yellow, and the blue, green, the actual Department of Education at a state level is the sponsor. And they're the ones that make sure the high schools and the colleges are following through. Education folks in the room, and just random question. Does anyone have any idea what the biggest school district in America is for head count? You might think somewhere in New York City, Chicago. Nope, it's in Texas. It's called the Windham School District. The Windham School District is actually the Texas prison system. They're the biggest school district in America. They use the NCCER. We actually had 25 of their instructors come to our facility so that we could teach these instructors to be better instructors, so that when these offenders get out, they're ready to rock and roll and they can come back into society. Because these instructors were teaching residential plumbing. Well, in the Gulf Coast, they don't need residential plumbing. They need industrial pipe fitting. So there are a lot of correction systems that use this as well. It is international. We have a job going on right now in Mexico with TransCanada. We're doing a couple pump stations. We're teaching some NCCER stuff down there. One country that's not on there that I know should be is Morocco. I've got a good friend that works for Jacobs. They have a job in Morocco. They're working with the national government to get it approved over there. So, again, this is slightly bigger than the Colorado Home Builders Association. Okay? Let's go through some little quiz. NCCER. Can the program be used as registered apprenticeships? What do you think? Yes. Does NCCER offer online curriculum? Yes. Can you build your own book? Can you supplement? If you got something really cool from your own company that you want to use, or you found a really cool YouTube video that helps teach triangle math, absolutely. Everybody's encouraged. You know, this is just the little textbook. You can plug in whatever you want. Is there an easy way to manage tests? Yes. Can assessments lead to more training? So in the NCCER world, there's really two silos. There's training and there's journeyman's assessment. You don't have to go through the training to go take a journeyman's test. If you say, I've got 4 years of experience, I want to take a crack at it, here you go. So the journeyman's test consists of two parts. One is about a 2-hour-long, 100-question computer test, a knowledge verification. A lot of math, a lot of technical terms, a lot of blueprint reading, crane charts. Everything you would get from 4 years of textbooks is in one test. The other part is a certified plus. That's a hands-on part. So for a pipe fitter, it takes anywhere from 8 to 12 hours to take this hands-on part. And there's 12 tasks, and they're very, very specific with very, very tight tolerances. And it doesn't matter if I'm giving it, if a college is giving it, if a union's giving it. We all know, here's the set of rules. And we all take that very seriously, because if that person passes, we're basically saying, this is a journeyman to the rest of the country. And so there's no cheating, no looking the other way that goes on with this stuff. Do we track all of the training? Yes. That's a huge part of this, is there's a national database where anybody can look it up. So this is the training silo. These are what the books look like. There's over 70 craft areas. Obviously, everything I said, pipe fitter, electrical, welder, scaffold builder. But there's also other stuff like drywall, plant operator. There's a hybrid curriculum just for operator. It takes a little bit of instrumentation, a little bit of pipe fitting, a little bit of electrical, and they say, here's what an operator needs to know. There's kind of a funky one, heavy highway. I guess my friends from Kiewit, they would do that. They also offer some of the soft skills, some of the management type of training. So it goes beyond journeyman level if you want to. A lot of companies have their own in-house. There are specific ones for foremen, for entry-level supervisors. This is the online registry. 14 million modules have been completed in NCCER's history. There's over 6,000 master trainers. There's 67,000 craft instructors. Big numbers. This is the journeyman's test. 600,000 people have tried. Only 300,000 have passed. I like the fact that it only says 50% pass. If it said 85% pass, I'd be a little bit worried. But the fact that it's 50% means, hey, this ain't an easy test. This is only the computer side. Most employers, you have to pass the written before we even let you attempt the hands-on. So of the hands-on folks, those numbers are even less. A little plug, the guy on the screen is actually one of my apprentices. He was an electrical apprentice that moved up to foreman, to GF, now he's a superintendent. So I guess they were using this in a lot of demonstrations, so I had to take my TIC logo. But that's our colored hard hat, if you ever see that. It's officially called Pontiac Blue. Not teal, not green, not seafoam. A lot of the NCCER stuff you can access by their website, the registry, obviously. Some of the other initiatives is the credentialing, but there's also that government, that workforce development, that outreach aspect. So I want to kind of show you what NCCER does on that front. Why is this important? There's almost 5 million kids, I'm going to use the word kids, 16 to 24 years old that are not in school or not working. 40% of kids that go to a four-year college drop out before completing. These are a couple of specifics. In Massachusetts, there's a wait list of over 5,000 youth that want to get into CTE programs. Philadelphia, they had 11,000 applications, and they only had room to accept 2,500. So there is a demand. It's not that we've got to go beat the bush, and yeah, we got to promote it, but there are already kids that want to get into this. So NCCR's outreach portion is called Build Your Future, BYF. If you go to byf.org, you're going to see all kinds of information. And there's all kinds of stuff that you can use for free. If you're going to a high school career fair, if you're going to go talk to a local chamber of commerce, there's all kinds of stuff there. One of the things they have here is this connections map. If I'm a contractor and I want to let people know that, hey, I'll come help you, then I plug myself in and I show up as a little hard hat. If I'm a school that says I need help, I want a contractor to come talk to my class, then I plug in as a school, and then hopefully it's kind of like Match.com. I wouldn't know anything about that. I've heard there's such a thing. Part of the Build Your Future is all of this. I guess they call it collateral. I call it swag. They've got posters. They've got baseball cards. They've got handouts. This is just an example of the state of Indiana wanted to go full steam ahead, and you can see some of the statistics and results that they had. We also work closely with the military. So we take the transitioning veteran, what did you learn in the military, and can you get credit for that? Yes. If you're an avionics tech in the Air Force, a lot of that will translate over to level 1 and level 2 electrical curriculum. So you're not starting from scratch. You submit your, what is it, DD 214? You submit your 214, we look at it, NCCR says, yep, and you automatically get credit for 6 to 12 to 24 modules because we know you were trained. Questions on the NCCER in general? Sound like it's a good program? I hope. Otherwise, I didn't do a very good job selling it. I'll tell you why we use it. And it's not just because we started it. I mean, we could have walked away and said, oh, this thing got too big, it's not working anymore. But this is why we train, to improve the skills of our people, retention, loyalty. A lot of people ask us, we have a unique model. We do work all over America. So Bakersfield, California, Corpus Christi, Texas. At 6 months, is it Sheridan? Shannon. She said she was a helper. And after a year, she said, that wasn't for me. So I went back to college. We know being a helper, especially a pipe fitter helper on a grinder all day long, it ain't the funnest thing in the world. So when we hire a local kid at 6 months, we'll go tap them on the shoulder. If they've been there every day busting their tail, they're a bang-up hand, they're safe, they're productive, we'll tap them on the shoulder and say, what do you want to be when you grow up? I understand you're on a grinder right now, but look at this whole project. What appeals to you? I want to be an iron worker. They got the coolest tattoos and the coolest sweatshirts. I want to be an electrician. I want to be a millwright. Okay, whatever you want to be, boom, we fly them to Colorado. We pay for their flight, we pay for their hotel, and we put them in school for 3 weeks at our own facility. We figure it costs about $12,000. They're still getting paid, their wages. Costs about 12 grand to have them there for 3 weeks. Then they go back and work for the rest of the year. Then they come back for 3 weeks. Then they go back and work. So after 4 years, we got about $50,000 invested in this person. And people always ask, well, aren't you afraid they're going to leave, right? What if they walk across the street? Is that a valid concern? Sure. So the best way I've ever heard it explained is, well, you got a choice. You either spend this money and train them, and they might leave, or you don't spend any money, and they'll stay. Which is worse? You got a bunch of mouth breathers over here who can't do anything, or you got bang-up hands that you know you've had them for 4 years, and hopefully you're going to have them for the next 20. So we think it's worth the investment. And that last bullet, we think it's the right thing to do for the industry as a whole. And that's why I'm here talking. You know, right now, TIC does not have any work in Alaska. In 1996, we built the Fort Knox gold mine. In 2005, we built the Pogo gold mine. We have worked up here in the past. We'd love to come back. But the industry and the nation needs this, and that's why we're here. We do work with some schools. I see Navajo Tech there. I grew up on a reservation in Montana. I was speaking on a panel one time on STEM, and I said, there is no more direct route from an impoverished background to $100,000 a year than STEM. And I consider skilled trades, I consider a pipe fitter, a welder, STEM. Because, man, I get in trouble when I tell high school kids they don't have to go to college. You do not have to go to college. Does it help? Hell yeah, if you're going for the right reason. So again, I already told you what our model is. This is some artist rendering of the new facility we built outside. Anyone ever fly through Denver? Denver Airport? Well, if you've got more than a 3-hour layover, hit me up. We're only 5 minutes away. This is our facility. Cost $16 million. Those back, the front building is a classroom. The back buildings are labs. It's pretty state of the art. I have heard there's a super, super nice training facility that the carpenters and millwrights have down in Las Vegas. But I heard it's not an arms race, but we're pretty close. This is what the front looks like. This is our rigging lab. We've got dual overhead cranes, structural steel. Again, we have kind of a robust model. I can tell you a lot of other people use NCCR in a different way. A lot of times when there's a big job, they'll do the training on site. They'll put together a temporary classroom, they'll bring in modulars, especially on a man camp job. You can do it at the camp. You'll find a foreman or a GF or a superintendent that wants to be the instructor, and then the hands can come in at nights or on Saturdays. A lot of different companies use it a lot of different ways. This is just a little plug. I don't know if anyone's going to Nashville here in about a month, but NCCER is going to have kind of an info session, and they're going to help people get better. This is the ACTE Conference, Association of Career and Tech Educators. I'll also be there. If you've never been to Nashville, it's a pretty fun town. It's like Las Vegas with less chance of going to jail. It doesn't sleep. There's lots of entertainment. The best live music you've ever heard. So this is another photo that is actually one of my crews in Oklahoma. It isn't going to magically happen. We all have to make a commitment to fill in that 2 million person gap. And I understand Alaska's economy may be pretty steady right now, but that's going to change. And you know what happens. I mean, I can tell you what happened in North Dakota when the Bakken blew up. And obviously it's slowed down now. But when it hits, it hits. And the companies and the associations that are ready for it, they're the ones that can go get the work. Because they're the only ones that will have people that can perform the work. I will be here. Thank you very much for the invitation. I sure appreciate this opportunity.